live. Welcome to RockSim Live. I'm Tim Van Milligan. I've got a new setup today, so hopefully this is going out properly. This is RockSim Live. This is where we talk about RockSim Pro, and almost any question that you have about rocketry. Yeah, so last week I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, checking out launch sites, and I couldn't find any. There's too many trees there. My daughter was there for her husband's white coat ceremony, so I had to go and watch that. So we were off last week, but I am back this week, and I don't have anything scheduled for a long time. So hopefully I'll be back every Friday for a long time. Knock on wood. Never know. So what are we doing today? So I've got the chat going on. That's going on here on this computer. So if you want to be recognized, go ahead and say hello and where you're watching from. If you're watching on replay, which means you're not live, we missed you here, and you're welcome to join any Friday afternoon, but we are glad that you are watching, so thank you for that. If you have questions and you're not live, make sure you type them, or you go to our website, and I'll show you that in just a second, where to go, and send those emails to us so that we can answer them in one of the future episodes. I'll be happy to answer them. If you need something urgent, we usually answer all the questions right away anyway, so you don't really have to wait. So let me go to the chat and see who's here. We have Greedy Paul 6343 here. We have Carlos, and he is in Marietta, Georgia, and he says it's got nice flying weather there. Yeah, that's cool. We've been having dry weather, so now we had a really dry winter. So our last launch was last week, which I wasn't at anyway, but it got canceled due to fire bans. So we need a little bit of rain. So send that rain to us. Carlos says, he's got his first question. He says, the last time we saw a 3-stage that needed sustainer fins. Show how to add 0.010 thick clear styrene fins. I bought some sheet styrene. Okay, that's an easy question to ask. Greedy Paul says, good question. Greedy Paul says, what rocket project are you working on, assuming you're waiting on the 3-stage? Carlos says, question number 2. Oh boy. I'll hold off on question number 2. Alfred Indy is here, and he said, let the RockSim learning begin. Greedy Paul says, kind of awesome that people get excited about learning. Well, I hope I'm going to teach you something new today. You're raising my bar pretty high. And Carlos says, where are the Apogee advertisement videos? Or now, Tim? I guess he was at 5 minutes before the hour, before we start, I turn on the live stream, and it's just a countdown clock. So I think that's what he was talking about. And I don't know how you got here so early. So I thank you for that. Chris's Rocketry and More says hello from Golden Valley, Arizona. And Greedy Paul says representing Wild and Thor from Orange City, Iowa. So Wild and Thor must be the local clubs there. I'm not familiar with them because I've never flown with them. Maybe I'll have to do that someday. Greedy Paul says, woohoo, just got a delivery from you, Tim. Oh, great. Thank you for buying stuff from us. That keeps us in business, which allows me to do these. Carlos says, I see and hear Tim. Well, that's good. Thank you, Carlos, for letting me know that everything is working with my new setup. To Explorer 828 says, David from Michigan, watching from Florida. He has 3 more days in Florida. Man, still jealous. Rick DeFossa says, can we use the black powder calculator in RockSim to determine the charge for a rocket with head-end deployment? Okay, we can answer that question too. And Dark Angel 1776, he says he's from West Virginia. So that, I'm assuming it's a he from West Virginia. So welcome to RockSim Live. We haven't had anybody from West Virginia in quite a while. And Starko3 says, Tim, when you do a RockSim launch visualizer flight with no more than 16 mile an hour when the flight data shows 32 mile an hour, what's going on? Okay. I think we tried to answer that one a few weeks ago and we couldn't figure it out. Greedy Paul says, Western Iowa launch domain is wild, and the Heartland Organization of Rocketry is Thor, the Heartland Organization of Rocketry. So that's the acronym. Okay, so let's get some preliminaries out of the way. My camera looks fuzzy. Let's put up my desktop. So if you go to the Apogee website, apogeerockets.com, this is who we are and what we do. And if you're interested in RockSim, go on this scrolling bar right here and you'll find RockSim 11. Oh, you got that free plans popping up. There's also a RockSim Pro banner. Both of them have 3 free trials, although RockSim Pro, in order to get the free trial, you have to buy something from our website, at least $30. And then we give you the free trial, good for 30 days. But the cool thing is you can extend that indefinitely. So you can come back in a month, order another $30, come back in another 30 days after that, order another $30, and just keep RockSim Pro going and going and going. RockSim 11 trial is just 30 days, and that's it. You'll like RockSim Pro better. That's kind of like where we're going into the future, but we still have RockSim 11 around, and we still hopefully plan on supporting it for a long time. If you go to How-To and Guides and come down here to Software, you'll find, here's where you can get the free trial. Here's where you'll find some videos. There's frequently asked questions, the features, and system requirements are all here. These training videos are really good, but we're going to answer more questions than what's in the videos. So that's why we do RockSim Live, to kind of give you instant answers to your burning questions. What else can I show you? Oh, this is the RockSim Live training. These are the archives. If you click on this, I haven't updated the archive section since, holy cow, it's been a year. It's been more than a year. I am so embarrassed. Sorry about that. It's just, there's just so much going on that there's so little time to update those things. Maybe in the future, you know, this would be a good case for artificial intelligence, is just to update these pages to keep them current. So we probably we're on episode, what episode number are we? Do I know which episode number? I'm looking here on Google. Stream settings. See if it gives me my name. Episode 229. So we've done well over 30, 34, 35, 36? 36 episodes. Wow. Yeah. We could have done 52 if I've been here every week. Okay, so let's get into RockSim and Carlos's question about clear fins. So I'm going to use RockSim Pro, and this is what RockSim Pro is. In this new setup, my camera, I can't extend the image of the rocket very well. So when I need a full-size image, I'll show you how to do that. Just because of the way it formats on the screen for the live streaming. It formats at 16:9 aspect ratio, and you know, I can. This is as big as I can make the image of the rocket. So first, we need a 3-stage rocket. I think the Estes Comanche. right, do not allow. Comanche. Am I spelling it right? No, shoot. It doesn't really have to be a 3-stage rocket, so I'm going to go here in my RockSim designs. That's interesting. Let's see if there's something in the Estes folder. Estes Fat Boy. Don't see anything. So I'm going to use the Skymetra. Okay, so Skymetra rocket. Okay, so there's the Skymetra rocket, and if I go 3 dimensions, so click over here, you get a 3-dimensional view, and it shows the rocket, and I'll zoom in. So to zoom in, I'm using the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. I think you can also do, I'm trying to find the right combination. Okay, it's holding down the control key and then the left key and then moving the mouse up and down. Well, allows you to zoom in and out, but it's easier with just the scroll wheel. All right, so we need to turn these fins into clear. This is a 2-stage rocket, so here is just the upper stage, and then here is the lower stage. And turning these into clear acrylic is pretty easy. It's a 2-step process. One is to change the material to acrylic, and that's not going to change the appearance. That's just going to change the material properties. So you go here to Rocket Design Components. Then you have to select what you want to change. So I double-clicked on this fin right here. And what it did is it highlighted that fin in the parts tree. So over here we have all the parts in the rocket, and it highlighted this booster fin set. Now I could manually select one just by going to the parts tree, but if you're just down here, you just click on it and it will highlight it. It's a little easier way to find things in your parts tree, especially when your parts tree gets really long. Okay, so first step is to select the material. So I'm going to double click on that, and it brings up the fin design screen. And we're going to go here to the material. So under the material, we're going to try to find something that like acrylic. Well, here's acrylic. So now they are acrylic, but it has a thickness of 0.125. So that's 1/8 of an inch. And we would need to be much thinner. I think he said 0.01. Okay, so now these are thinner fins. And what that does is it changes the mass of that fin. Well, this is the single fin, calculated mass of a fin. And then this is the set. So you just basically, this is a 3-fin rocket, so you multiply this times 3 and you get that. Okay, so now we've adjusted the material. So if I look at it in 3D again, you'll see that really nothing's changed, except if I zoom in here, you can see that this back fin is much thinner than the front fin because I didn't change the thickness of the front fins. I only changed the back. So now we need to make them clear. So for that, you'll come over here to the color tab right here. And down here is opacity. So acrylic is clear, and opacity of 1 means a solid, opaque surface. So if I want to clear, I just take this slider bar, and you can see by moving it, we are able to see into the fin now. See, I'm seeing through this fin into that front fin. And if I want it clear all the way, there it is. It's perfectly clear. Now the thing is, when they're perfectly clear, the fin is still there, it's just perfectly clear. Acrylic will reflect light, and what we're not seeing is reflected light here. So if you want to, so you got to change it so it has a little bit of opacity. So I got it at 0.02, so now you can kind of see, see that it's kind of, a different color. Right now I've got yellow, and I'm going to change it to white and see how that affects it. So not really much difference, but if I go all the way, you can see now it's white. We're seeing here as gray because we're getting a shadow on that side. But if you look at that fin right there, just the way the light is reflecting off of it. So that is how you turn a fin into clear acrylic. Okay, it's pretty simple. He said it has styrene, clear. Styrene's not typically clear. It's usually either clear acrylic or PET. There's other clears, but styrene I don't think is usually clear. Okay, question number 2 from Carlos. During the 1960s, we built NASA model rockets. Where are all the current drone kits done as boost gliders? Well, I don't know. That's a question for an internet search. Here at Apogee, if you want to see our glider kits, we do sell some glider kits. Go to the shop menu right here. And then you can come down here. There's 2 ways to see this. One is right over here is glider rockets. And you can just click on glider rockets. And that will show you the gliders that we sell. The other way is if you go on shop, again, click on, come over here, and you can do a rocket sortable list. And we got this big sortable column here, so we can say select comparison columns, and I'm going to say I want recovery. I'm going to uncheck auto, click recovery, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. I'm just turning everything off. And then if I go here to select, I can choose glider. And then the list is more condensed. So those are all glider. There's more than that. Glider parachute. Glider streamer. There you can do helicopters. So again, it's probably easier just to go here to Rocket Glider Kits. And there's 2 pages of them, 10 different gliders that we currently sell. The Draco, the Flintlock Light, ME-163. The Wind Lance were out of stock. Stratoscale, Orbital Transport, Super Orbital Transport, Aurora Clipper. This one's been discontinued. I don't know why it's still showing up. And the Night Fighter has been discontinued as well. So that makes it 8. And then there's one that's out of stock, so now we're down to 7. Okay, what else we got going on? I'm looking at the chat. Always loves Tim's video, says Dark Angel 1776. Bob Ryan G7G says hello from South Carolina. Thank you, Bob Ryan. Rick DeFossis. Okay, so he had a question. Where did it go? Where did it go? I just went right past it. Okay, he says, can we use the black powder calculator in RockSim to determine the charge for a rocket set up with head-end deployment? The answer is yes. So let me open up a bigger rocket here, something that's bigger. How about the Katana? Do I want to save that? No. Okay. Okay, so here's the Katana. And the ejection charge calculator, if you come up here to rocket, and you come down here to ejection charge calculator. So when you click on that, what that does is it brings up this window here. So this is a side view of the rocket. And then what we need to do is we're going to follow the prompts right here. It says, please select the body tube to be pressurized. So in head-end deployment, you're going to have all your electronics inside the nose cone. Typically, they're inside of the electronics bay right here. But just putting them over here is fine. And then you're going to probably mount the ejection charges to the back end of the nose cone. Whether you're mounting the ejection charges here or here on the front end of the eBay, doesn't matter to RockSim. All it needs to know is, what are you going to pressurize? And we're going to pressurize this tube right here. So now when we look at it, you see this square right here is the back end of the shoulder on the nose cone. And then here we have the front end of the shoulder on the eBay coupler. We're not going to pressurize that area, and we're not going to pressurize that area. We're going to pressurize in between. So the next thing is move the cursor with delicate movements to adjust the size of the rectangle. Click and drag the right half of the screen to move the right end and vice versa. So what that means is, okay, here I'm on the right end. If I click and drag, holy cow, it's got to be fine movements. I got this new setup here. So that is the back end that needs to be pressurized. And then the front end, we'll click and drag over here to about right, oops, went too far. Right there. So that is the area that's going to be pressurized by the ejection charge. So when the ejection charge goes off, it's going off into this volume of air inside the rocket. And that's what we're going to pressurize. And by pressurizing it, we're just going to pop those nose cone off, and that will pull the parachute out. So all we did was just specify the tube, and it doesn't matter if it's front end, head end deployment, or using a traditional eBay right here. It's just, what are you pressurizing? And so at that point, you specify your desired internal pressure. By default, it's 8 psi, and you can move it all the way up to 15. You get above 15, you're just kind of blowing things apart. That's a lot of pressure inside there. So, you know, Apogee kind of recommends on the low end, because it's not going to take much to get this nose cone off. And then once you do that, with the volume and the pressure, it'll tell you exactly how much black powder you're going to need. So for this volume of space inside the rocket, we need just a little over 1/2 gram of black powder. It's not much. There's a lot of energy there. If you put it at 15 psi, you're almost close to 1 gram of black powder. And that's a lot too. So that was a pretty easy question too. Thank you for that one, Rick. Okay, Sturko3 says, when I do the launch visualizer flight with no more than 60 mile-an-hour winds, the flight data shows 32 miles an hour. What's going on? And he says, the flight data wind is always much higher than the wind inserted. Okay, I think we tried that one before. I think there's a bug. So that was an easy question to answer too. Maybe I'll come back to that one. Let me see if there's any other questions here. Greedy Paul says, question for the Starship Two-ish. Do you make a 38 millimeter tail cone retainer? I'm going to come right out here just a second and bring up my Starship. It's still here in the studio. Let me switch cameras. There we go. So here's the Starship Two-ish. We're doing a build series right now. If you're a subscriber to our newsletter, you're seeing this every 2 weeks. So on Tuesday, we release videos number 8 and 9 in the series. I think it was 8 and 9 or 7 and 8. And in that part of the video, we put the wings on, just the inside panels. The pods we did in episodes 6 and 7, but they're not attached yet. But we attached these inside panels onto here, and we installed the engine mount. And this does have a tail cone retainer. And the question is, do we sell these? And the answer is yes, we do sell these. So I can show you that on the Apogee website. Let me go back here, go back to the Apogee website. And that is a, let's go here to shop. We'll come down here to building supplies. And then we're going to scroll down and we're looking for tail cones. And here is the 74 millimeter boat tail motor retainer. And that's the one that's being used on the Starship Two-ish. So that's what it looks like. This is a CAD drawing of putting it on, holding the motor in. They work pretty good. I got some dimensions there for you if you need those. I don't have the instructions here. Well, this shows you how to install them. They're pretty easy to install. It comes with a special spacing jig, because you're going to extend. Let's see if I got a picture. So if you look at the back end of the rocket, this is the motor tube, and that motor tube has to stick out the back end of the rocket at the correct distance. So when you put the body of the retainer on, it's at the right position so that when you screw on the cap, everything is matched. So you get a nice tight seam right here, and at the same time you're locking in your motor just right. So there's a little cardboard spacing jig that allows you to space that motor tube at the correct distance before you glue on the body of the retainer. So you get 3 parts. You get the body, you get the tail cone, plus you get the spacing thing. So that is available from Apogee, and I just showed you how to find it. Alfred Indy says, thinks Tim's main PC is an Apple. I've been using Apples forever. We have 2 Windows computers that we use here at Apogee. It's because some of our equipment requires Windows. Low Budget Bob is here hello from Arizona, he says. If you have time, Tim, how do you add a motor to RockSim? He's got an Aerotech K850, is not in RockSim. Okay, so let's see if it's in mine. Well, let's go back to the Apogee website. Let's find out what a K850 is. Do we sell this? K850. Oh, this is the brand new one that I think the Aerotech redesignated. I think they discontinued one motor and then re-released it as another one with just a slight change. I think it was this one. Maybe I'm wrong. but he says this is not in RockSim. So what I'm looking for is the diameter. So this is a 54 millimeter motor. And this kit right here, the Katana, does use a 56 millimeter motor. So let's go to the engine database. So to get to the engine database, we're going to go to prepare for launch. And that brings up this screen here. And then we're going to choose an engine. And we're going to filter it by only the motors that match the diameter. The manufacturer filter says all, and the type filter says all. And I can use a search, and I can type in K850, and there it is. So it's in my version of RockSim. But if it wasn't in there, how would I do that? So what you would do is you would go to the File menu, and you'd come down here to Reload Engine Data. And then over here, it says Download Engine Data. So you click on that. And then we're going to type in K850 for the designation. And let's start the search with just that. See if I need more. It says no, zero matched. Oh, K805. Let's type in K850. Still says zero match. Max results matched 129. Let's type in common name K850. Let's try it here. It's been such a long time. Oh, there it is. One matched. So once you have one that matches, click OK, and it shows you the results. Then highlight it, and then click Download Selected Engine Data. Do I want to click this? I'll click it just to see what happens. Okay, so now it's asking me to save the file onto my computer. So it's in that middle stage of downloading where it sees it on the server and it wants to put it on your computer, and now it's asking you where do you want to put it. And it's given me the default location of the data folder. Because I can tell there's other motors here. I can see the Aerotech C3.4. And then I can see, all the motors that are in the database. And so then what you do is you just hit save. Do I want to hit save? Yeah, I'll hit save. And it says it already exists. Do we want to replace it? And I'll say yes. Okay, so it replaced it. Now I'm going to hit cancel. Then I'm going to come back up here to File, come back here to Reload Engine Data, and what you'll see is that K850 should be here on the left side. Since it was already in my database, it's already here. So if I scroll down to the Ks, let's see if I can find it. K80, there is a K805. Here it is, K850 dark matter. So it's going to start on this side after you download it, and then you select it and then hit add or add all, and it will move it to this side. And once it's in this side, then RockSim will see it when you go to load the engine. Again, to load the engine, go prepare for launch, choose engine. I can use the search code here, K850. And it sees it, and then click OK, and you can see it loaded it into the back of the rocket. And if I move this over, you'll see that it's, man, that's a big long motor. It goes well past the base here. So this is 18, that's a long motor. Then you select the delay, and yeah, then you can launch or flight profile. I'll click flight profile and see what it does. It said it only went 900 feet. It should have gone a lot higher than that. Something's going on. brought it up here. I was just looking at the chat while I was waiting for this to show up. So this is a launch site, and I'm not sure where this is. But north is an arrow this way. So I can't remember when was the last time I used this. So I'm going to zoom out. So I'm pressing down the control key. This is Memphis. So this is Memphis, Tennessee, is where our launch site is. And I lost the site. So if you lose the site, just click the home button. Oh, there it is. So this rocket only is in the air for 18 seconds. So what is happening? So the rocket's taking off. It looked like it's going okay. It's coasting upwards, hit Apogee, but it's only gone 800 feet. That is not very high at all for a K motor. So let's see if I can figure out what happened here. Let's see what the setup was. Oh, okay. Deploy now. See, it wasn't set up properly. I didn't have it set up to deploy at Apogee. And then this is the advanced flight events in RockSim Pro. This is the way it used to be, but now we simplified it, and we've gone to a simplified version. And if you want to see the simplified version, you go here to the preferences of RockSim Pro, and there's this button right here under simulation settings, a checkbox. It says use simplified flight events. When you click that and click OK, and then you go back to this and go back to the flight events, you'll see it's a lot different. So I can deploy this at Apogee and then deploy this at an altitude, and it knows that this altitude is on the way down. So I can say 600 feet and hit flight profile again. You can see that went much higher this time. We went 7,000 feet. Before I was ejecting the parachute, I think I was ejecting it right on the launch pad, and it still carried it 905 feet up into the sky. So it was going up, dragging the parachute right behind it. And so it works much better when you deploy at Apogee or higher in the sky. So we're getting close to the top. It's slowing down. I think we got to 7,000 feet. So then it deployed the parachute. You can see that the rocket is coming down, and I'm just going to speed it along until it comes down to the ground, and it looks like it landed in a forest. That's pretty far away. That's interesting. So this is the reverse dog leg. Usually it's steep. The descent is a steep angle, and then it flattens out when the big parachute opens up. So this tells me that I deployed my main parachute at Apogee and then reefed it and deployed the drogue chute at 600 feet, and then it landed right there. So that was 4,550 feet away from the launch site. All right, so Alfred Indies is asking a question of Greedy Paul. How far is your club from Illinois? Greedy Paul says, I'm working on a high-power launch site for a while just outside of Fort Dodge, Iowa. Thor launches in Concord, Nebraska. Okay. So now I'm interested in what those are. So if you go to rocksim.com, I wonder if I got those in the database. So if I go to launch site, oops, I got to log in. Okay, I'm logged in. Now I'm seeing my launch sites. And if I zoom out, I want to put this on north. This has the same arrow. And then I'm zooming out and I'm looking for those launch sites in Iowa. So there's Thor low power site. There's Thor high power site. And Fort Dodge, Iowa. Where is Fort Dodge, Iowa? It's not on the map. So I'm going to try something. I want to show you this. Fort Dodge City in Iowa. And we go to a map. There's Fort Dodge. There's Sioux City. Oh man, that's like almost right in the middle of the state. So if you want your new club launch site to show up in RockSim, you go to the launch visualizer, tell me your coordinates. There's Des Moines. I'm looking for Fort Dodge. I lost it. Try it again. Just got to find where it is. So we go up here and then turn left at Highway 20. Of course, it's not going to show me Highway 20. There it is, Fort Dodge. Okay, so let's see if we can pick a launch site for him. I like this field right here. It's nice and flat. It looks pretty big. So assuming this was the field, and it's not, but to add it to the launch visualizer, you double click on it and it puts a point down and say, okay, this is the launch pad. Then you come down here to confirm launch site. And then this gives you the coordinates of that launch site. And what I want you to do, Greedy Paul, is to share this launch site. So you could call it, what did you say this was, Thor or Wild? I think it was Wild. Yeah, Wild. So you could say Wild launch, Wild Club launch site. And then what you do is use site. You got to save it first. And I said sit site. And it saves the coordinates. And then you'll hit submit, and it's saved into your personal database, and then you do share this site, and then you find it on the list, and it should be in the bottom one on the list. So there it is with Wild Club launch site, and you check this box to say make public, and you hit share, and what that does is it sends me personally an email. And that way I can get it into the launch visualizer, because otherwise I can't. So do that for me. Anybody that has a club in a launch site and it's not currently in the database, do that, send it to me. Okay, so Eduardoa says, is there a way to add wind velocity at different altitudes for different differences in winds aloft for high altitude launches? Okay, so that's the same question that Sturko 3 had. So I guess we're going to talk about that. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to come back to that launch site because we're going to launch there. Actually, we need to find a bigger launch site. Is this big enough for that K motor? Maybe, if the winds are blowing from the north toward the south. Okay, so to add wind, what you do is you go prepare. This is in RockSim Pro. You can do various winds aloft in RockSim Pro where you can't in RockSim. You can only have one constant wind. Although it can vary, but it doesn't vary by altitude. It varies by time. Okay, so we're going to go here to launch conditions. Okay, we're going to start here, and then we're going to do wind. So first, I want to get that launch site that we just had, this one right here, and I'm going to move it off my screen so I can see it over here, and I'm going to type these values in here. So my altitude is right here. Altitude at ground level is 1,015 feet. So I'm going to copy that, bring that here, bring that there, and then I want the latitude. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it over here, paste that there, and then I'm going to want the longitude. Copy that and bring that here. And then I'm going to say this is the Wild Club launch site, Fort Dodge, Iowa. And I'm going to save that launch site to the database. And as soon as you click that button, it says it has been saved successfully. Okay, so now we're going to add wind. So this is our wind table. And so this is how you add wind at different altitudes into the software. So right now we have a wind at an altitude above sea level. So 0 feet above sea level. So now it's important to remember that our launch site is not at sea level. Our launch site is right here at 1,032 feet. So I could copy that, or I can just assume, well, I'll do that. I'll make altitude number 2, well, I'm going to make altitude number 1, that altitude. And then what is a different altitude? So this rocket, it went 7,000 feet. So I'm going to put a number of speeds in this chart. So now this 7,000 feet is 7,000 feet above ground level. So we added another 1,000 feet to that. So now we're at 8,000 plus feet. So our first one, I'll say, is at 1,000 feet above ground level will be 2,015. And then we'll add another one. So the next time you need to hit the plus button down here. And we'll make this one 6,015 feet, or basically 5,000 feet up higher. And then our last one, I'll make this one 8,050 feet, so that I didn't do all the math, but it's a little bit above 8,000 feet. So now we have a wind at that altitude. So now we can start changing the velocity and the direction. So our direction is a compass direction. So north is 0 degrees. And then 180 degrees of that is south. So if you put in 180 degrees, the wind is coming from the south. So this first altitude, I'm going to leave at I want to make it 0 because I want my wind coming out of the north. Because if I look at this map right here, I want my rocket to land down here the long way in this field, because otherwise I'm going to be landing, you know, there's trees over here, and there's houses over here, and I don't want to land in the subdivisions, so I want to land over here. So that's how I'm choosing my wind, but you could also choose your wind another way. If I open up a website called windy.com, you can see this shows a map, and if I look for Fort Dodge here, right now there's a 13 knot wind coming from the northwest, and somewhere in here you can get different altitudes. So if I go 250 feet, now the wind is at 21 knots, but it's still coming mostly from the same direction. We'll go from 13 to 21 knots, and then if I go to, there's 6,400 feet. Well, then it changes to flight levels. I don't know what flight levels are. Maybe that's, you know, flight level 100. Are there any pilots out there that are watching? Can you tell me what that means? You know, is that 10,000 feet, or is it or something different? I get, my guess is it's 10,000 feet, but at 6,400 feet, now it's at 34 knots, basically coming out of the same direction. So that is how you find current wind speeds, and I think you can actually change the date. So if I know if I'm flying on Saturday, now it's estimating the wind is going to be in a different direction. So this is where you get the values from, and then you bring them over to here. So I'm going to say we're coming out of the north, and at all altitudes, and then I wonder if you can switch this to miles per hour. If there's a settings for changing from knots to miles per hour, so it's a little easier to do. I don't see anything. So we'll just call this miles per hour. If not, you can do the conversion on your own. So at ground level, it was 14, and then it was 21, and then it was 34, and we'll call it 8,036. And then we hit, I'm going to save this wind table. I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it Fort Dodge. Fort Dodge winds. I'm going to save that table into my database. If I want to choose it from the database, you click choose a wind table. It doesn't want to let me click it. I wonder if I got something open. Oh, here it is. There's something underneath. Choose wind table, and then you can see different wind tables that you can save. So now I've got my wind table, and now we just hit flight profile, and this is going to get to Stirk's question, Stirk 03. Okay, so remember, this is that launch site in Fort Dodge. We got the coordinates exactly. If you want, I can show you my Fort Dodge Google search. Open in maps. But basically, I wanted it in the launch visualizer. There it is. See, we're right there. And so we're right there is the launch pad. What you're seeing here This triangle looking thing is the weathercocking cone. That just kind of gives you a visual indication of of how straight the rocket is going. We want to keep the rocket inside that cone until it reaches apogee, and then the wind can blow it out of that cone. So north is over here to the right, south is this way, so I'm expecting the rocket to eventually drift this way as it's coming down. So quick launch, and see the rocket taking off, and it's arcing into the wind, which is kind of what we would expect. Let me zoom out just a little bit, and we're getting close to apogee here. You can see that the wind didn't affect it too much on the way up, and now the parachute is out, and the rocket came down and landed right there in the middle of the road. Couldn't have done it any better. I wasn't trying. Honest, I wasn't. Can we see the wind in this simulation? Because the wind is all coming out of the same direction, the only way to tell is by the slope of the line. And you can see that the slope is kind of gently curving. So at high altitude, it's blowing fast, but as it's coming down, it's not blowing as hard. And so the slope is angling downward. You can kind of see, it's hard to see. I hope you can see this. It's kind of angling down, and then when it gets down to the ground, we can vary the wind direction. So let's do that. Let's run another simulation. So prepare for launch. Again, let's go to the wind table, and then start varying the wind direction. So at 2,000 feet above sea level, which is 1,000 feet above the ground, let's make it coming out of the south. So coming out of the south would be 180. And then let's make this one 90. So it's coming out of the west, or coming out of the east. And this one we can either do minus 90 or 270. And that should be coming out of the west. And then hit flight profile again, and let's see what happens. Make this bigger. All right, so launching it. And let's zoom out so we can, it's still flying pretty straight because it's going fairly fast. Okay, we're reaching apogee. You can see it's arced that way a little bit, not too bad. Apogee is right inside the cone, which is good. So now I'm going to speed it along, and we'll see the effect of wind. So let me put north straight up. Look at that. Okay, so the rocket took off right here. So here's our launch pad right there. Here is apogee right there. And then because it was high, the wind was coming out of the west, and then it switched to the east. So it looks like it was trying to go what it was trying. Why did it go north? It went kind of north first, and then it got down to here, and then you could see it changed directions. And then as it got lower, it started swinging around to the south again. And then it finally landed. And then down here close to the ground, the wind was coming out of the south. And so you can see that it changed again right here, started to blow that way. So this is kind of extreme. Your rocket, your winds would probably not be like that. It would be, you know, like either varying same direction but varying speed versus altitude, or varying the direction slightly, probably, you know, maybe 15 to 20 degrees and different speeds as it's coming down. So let's go see if I can find Sturk's question. He says, when I do a RockSim visualizer with visualizer flight with no more than 16 mile-an-hour winds, the flight data shows 32 mile-an-hour winds. What's going on? So how do I know that it's going greater than 16 to 32? Where would I see that? I think let's try the charts. So we're going to go to a plot. So this one right here is the last one we did. Go to the plot, and we can see if there's wind speed. Oh, here's a cross wind speed, a Y wind speed, and an X wind speed. And let's throw an altitude here. We got to make these different. So that one will be red. This one will be green. And this one will be blue. And this one will be black. And we'll end this at the end of the data. Let's plot this graph. Holy cow! Why are we seeing this? Yeah, I can't make heads or tails out of that. It's just all random noise. I think it's jumpy. I don't know. I guess nothing. But I'm not sure where I would see that. Okay, so that was Eduardo. And he says, is there an easy way? Okay, so we did wind. Greedy Paul says, awesome. Thanks, Tim. Soon our field is secured. I will add it. Low Budget Bob says there's a site called Ventusky that shows different wind directions and whatnot at different altitudes. So let's go check that out. www.ventusky. I don't know what it is. Is it .com? Not now. Ventusky weather. It's a .com. Oh, this is just like windy. Yeah, this is nice. Let's see if we can find Fort Dodge, Iowa. There's Fort Dodge right there. And we got wind gusts. The maximum wind gusts for the last hour. We got wind speed. Okay, so how do we change altitude here? The date, play, air quality. I'm not seeing wind animation normal. Weather fronts. Where do you adjust altitude? Temperature, participator, radar, clouds, wind speed, wind gust, air pressure, thunderstorms. I don't know. It's a cool website though, automatic. Okay, I don't know. In the flight data box. Tim, open the flight data link on the right and see what it shows for winds. The calculator square on the right of the flight picture. Okay. Okay, so let's go here to launch. Let's launch it again. We're leaving all that crazy wind in there. Oh, I should have, shoot, cancel. I clicked the wrong button. I should have hit flight profile. Okay, so he's saying in the data panel, which is this button right here, show properties, air velocity, heading, wind direction. Okay, so at 0 feet, let me cancel out of this just a second so I can see something here. So I want to remember what I launched. So here's my wind table. I'm going to take a screenshot of this so that I got it right. Okay. Where'd that go? Flight profile. There it is. Okay, it's on my desktop somewhere. So let's see if I can find that. Finder window, desktop. Oh boy, we're after 3 o'clock. Okay, so I'm going to open that screenshot so that I can have that data. So at ground level, we have the wind coming out of the north at 14 miles an hour. So let me see if I can move this over here and then open this here. So we're at ground level. And our velocity is 0. No, wait a minute, that's not wind. Here's our wind. Wind speed is at 20 miles an hour at ground level. So at 2,000 feet or 1,000 feet, it's at 21 miles per hour. So it's seeing something, but then it says the wind direction is at minus 127, and we should have it at 0. All right, so let's change this. Oops. I want to know come on, let go. I want to be able to see altitude right there, and I want to get up to 1,000 feet. That's pretty close. So now we have a wind speed of 24. And the wind direction at minus 72. And so this is way off. I think the problem is in this flight data chart. That would be my guess. Was a wacky data a rocket swinging wildly in a circle? That was Carlos. And the question I says, it might be yes. Greedy Paul says FL 100 is 10,000 feet. Rick DeFossa says click on the knots in the lower right and you will see miles per hour. Oh, cool. Thank you, Rick. You can also click on the flag you dropped. Okay, that's good to know. Sturco C in the flight. Okay, so looks like your calculator. Carlos says okay. Low budget Bob, under wind speed, click that box. You can change the altitude. Greedy Paul says, I have learned several things tonight. Good. Woohoo! We met our goal of learning something new. And I learned something new too. I learned there's bugs. Okay, Tim, thanks. I guess no one used this flight data. Yeah, no, I guess nobody. No, I use it occasionally, but I never use that wind down here. I guess I should have used it when we were creating the software and I was working with the programmer. Very cool stuff. I think we're out of time, so I gotta quit. As much fun as I was having. Thank you again for being here. This was awesome. I should be back next week. I'm not planning on going anywhere, I think. So I don't know. Are you guys getting notifications like when I go live, or do you get it before I go live, like when I make the schedule? I don't know. If you're launching tomorrow, I hope you have a great launch. We are off tomorrow, so we're going to wait another week before. So the first Saturday of the month is our launch date. So I'm going through withdrawals. I need to launch something. So thanks again for being here. I'll give you a countdown and we'll get out. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch something, and see you next time.